Hey guys, thanks for stopping by. If you like my video, please like and subscribe. Also check me out on Twitch as Floyd Mason.
Hello. Welcome back, Spooks fans. We are back. We are back with more Goosebumps reviews, and we are on to Book 4, Say Cheese and Die. Have this copy of it as well. I unfortunately, if there is a 2007 remake, I don't have it. So I just have these two with the same cover. And quite honestly, this is one of the ones... A lot of the 2003 reprints I don't like as much. The color schemes just don't seem to work, and this one especially, I think it's just off with the blue and the orange. Not my favorite, but this one's pretty solid. Pretty good looking cover here. Got a nice skeleton family. This one especially is kind of odd, as it's the only book, I believe, where this scene wasn't actually in the book, and the higher-ups forced Stein to put it in. So it's kind of a throwaway scene in the book. I mean, it must happen, right? Like, I'm sure sometimes Jacobus is given, if he did this one, I actually can't remember if he did this one or not, but the artist will be given kind of a vague storyline of what's in the book, and he kind of has to come up with the picture, possibly before he's read the full book to know what's in it. So it's one of those ones where, like, while it's cool, I don't like it quite as much. We'll get to the rating at the end of the cover, but I don't like it as much just because it doesn't really fit with the story, which we'll get into. So this story is about a couple teenagers, mainly Greg and his friends Michael, Doug, and Sherry, or Shari, however you want to say it. I call her Sherry, but I can't remember in the episode how they pronounce it. And Doug goes by Bird, so calling me out going forward. Basically, the book kind of starts with them going into an abandoned house where a kind of recluse named Spidey lives. I don't remember if they explain why this house is vacant, but, you know, it's kind of one of those, like, haunted houses in a town. Everyone kind of stays away. You know, this Spidey, who is kind of out there, lives, or, you know, kind of squats this house. So they kind of all dare each other to go in and, you know, just kind of, let's scare each other. Let's see who's brave and whatnot. Let's go to the house, and they eventually go down to the basement. One of them, I think it's Michael. Could be Bird. One of them pretends that he's kind of hurt in the basement. So they'll run down. He's faking, but there's a bunch of stuff down there. They explore, and Greg finds the camera. So it's kind of hidden in a secret compartment. He gets it out, shows it to his friends, and then he snaps a picture of Michael. And immediately after he does that, Michael falls off the stairs, injures his foot, and at that point they hear Spidey coming in. So they immediately panic, and they kind of, you know, there's a whole scene with the classic Stein cliffhangers of, we can't get out this door, and then they immediately get out the door of the basement and run off. And Greg kind of realizes that he took the camera. I don't think he meant to. And they look at the picture, and it has Michael falling through the air. So, you know, they're all kind of like, this is weird. It's odd. Like, I thought, you know, you snapped it before, but maybe it took a minute to actually register or whatnot. So they kind of chalk it up to just an oddity. You know, Michael's feeling better. They kind of go their own way with that. But so Greg basically has his camera. Now, this is a pretty classic story. You know, I've seen it a couple times. You know, especially I think in some of Stein's earlier work, because we'll get to one soon. I actually just finished reading Book 8, which is another kind of classic tale retold in his way. But basically, high level, what this camera can do is it can see the future. So whatever picture comes out comes true. So basically, this book is just them taking, you know, him taking pictures of things and them coming true. So he takes a picture of the dad's car. You know, dad got a new car, and he takes a picture of it, and then it ends up totaled. They go for a ride. They actually just avoid an accident. But later in the book, the dad actually does get in a car accident, and the car is totaled. He takes a picture of his brother, who has like a worried look on his face, and then it comes true when he comes to tell Greg about the car. He takes one of, I believe it's Bird getting hurt playing baseball. He immediately does the classic fake out where he pretends to be hurt and he's fine, and then actually gets hurt. And so basically, Greg comes to realize that, hey, the first one, maybe it was a delay, maybe it happened, but all these other ones, like the car being totaled, like Bird being hurt, like these things didn't happen yet. This camera is predicting the future. And it always is bad. Something bad happens when the picture's taken. So, he kind of doesn't want to use it too much. But he doesn't really know what to do with it. Because he does, he's kind of like, I have the camera. Spidey, he thinks kind of maybe saw them initially when he took it. At one point, his room gets ransacked. And then for some odd reason that I don't know how anyone could explain it, Shari asks him to take a picture of her. Even though at this point, he's quite positive that bad things happen. He agrees. He takes her picture, and she's not in it. It's at her birthday party. She's not in the picture. They're like, oh, that's so weird. And shortly after this, she disappears. And so Shari's gone for a while, and Greg gets kind of interviewed by the police. I think it's at this point that his room gets ransacked while he's at the party. And yeah, she is basically gone. They also at this point introduced some bullies who basically try and take the camera from them. They're not too much in the story. They actually, in the episode, they have a bit more. But in this one, they're just kind of filler. I mean, they're fine, right? Like, kind of just something to kind of push the story a bit. And we'll get to the endings. I don't talk about the show too much, but I'm going to talk about the ending of this one. Because they're different, and I really like one of them as compared to the other one. So basically, he's kind of panicking, and doesn't know what to happen, and he finally gets frustrated enough that he rips up Shari's photo, and this causes her to reappear. So she comes back. She has no idea where she's been. It's not really, she's just back. There's no explanation for it. The camera has Mr. Powers, but she is now more willing to believe Greg that it has an issue. He had tried and talked Michael and Bird into going back to the house with them earlier to return the camera, and they both kind of just wouldn't do it. But with Shari, he convinced her to go with them, and especially around this point, Spider kind of tries to grab them, and luckily a neighbor drives by, scares him off, and so they go back to the house, put the camera back, they sneak in, put the camera, and they turn around and Spidey's there. So Spidey kind of confronts them, and he kind of goes on and explains about the camera a bit and how he worked with another person who invented it, and this guy was pure evil, and Greg admits that he knows how the camera works, and so Spidey's basically, well, I can't let you leave. You know too much about this camera. You know too much about me. I don't think Spidey has any intent on using the camera. I think, and it'll be proven in a second, my theory, but that he is deathly afraid of it. But basically, he's kind of grabbing them. They get into kind of a tussle, and Greg takes his picture. So he takes his picture. I can't remember now, honestly, if it's on purpose or he's trying to blind him or what he's doing or distract him. But they do that. They run upstairs and they notice that he's not chasing them, and it's quiet. And they go back down, and the camera killed him. He's just dead. He kind of explains it as he had a heart attack and died of pure fear. So that's, again, just as I was kind of alluding to, just kind of that theory that he was afraid of the camera, and when it took his picture, he died out of fright for what the camera was going to do to him. But that kind of wipes up Spidey. They explain to the cops, says, hey, it was raining. We ducked into the house to get out of the rain because we thought it was abandoned, and we happened to find Spidey here deceased. So we reported it. Which, I mean, again, as a kid in the 90s, that story tracks to me. I'd be like, oh, weird. Yeah, stepped into an abandoned house during the rain, sure. I don't think now that'd be a weird story. Why are you going in abandoned houses? But in the 90s, I think that tracked a bit more. But for the big twist ending, as Stein loves to do, especially in the early ones, right? Like again, he kind of did with State of the Basement. He kind of had the flowers talking, and with Monster Blood, it disappears and it's gone, and who knows what. So this one, the bullies actually have snuck into the house, and they were watching through the window, and they saw where he hit it, and they take the camera and they take a picture, and they're looking at it, and the book ends. In the TV show, Spidey actually gets pulled into the camera with the picture, and the bullies take a picture, and Spidey pops up behind them, and he's kind of been reincarnated. I love the book ending so much more. I am not usually one for kind of a cliffhanger for kind of a vague ending, but I think it's perfect. I can't remember how Say Cheese and Die Again. I don't remember that story at all. I definitely read it as a kid, but I can't remember it. But to me, it's a great ending because this is a great story. And that kind of open the door to a sequel, which he ends up doing. Again, with Monster Blood, he does it as well, where the Monster Blood disappears. But this one with that open ending leaves it. It's a good cliffhanger. It's not just like, oh, they got away and everything's fine. It's kind of like, oh, like, who knows what's going to happen now? Like, the camera's out in the world again. For this book, it is, I think, especially for the early ones, one of the better ones. The big thing that I like about some of these stories is horror that is real. So while I don't mind a story that has some fantastical things, like this camera that predicts the future, it's explained well enough in the world that they're building, and it just doesn't feel like it's an important enough thing. It's like, okay, yeah, the camera can predict the future. It's far out there and fantastical, but it works. But there's a lot of real fears in this book. You have somebody getting hurt playing a sport. You have the dad crashing the car. You have Shari disappearing. Even not using the camera, you have a spider, a predator, kind of chasing the kids, and luckily a neighbor scaring them off. Like, as a kid, there's a lot of real horror in this book, which I think for some of the early ones really set it apart. Because it was actually scary. I remember being scared by this book as a kid. And a lot of them are spooky. Like, they have their moments. They have their scary things if you're kind of thinking about it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I probably had a nightmare or two as a kid thinking about a possible plant dad. But this one was real, and it kind of, even was a bit older, it can be a little uneasy. And again, the fantastical part of the camera is mixed in well. It's a great story driver. And it makes this book, again, of the early ones especially, I think one of the strongest. It is one, I think that really, I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure it helped some sales. I know the episode was really, really well received as well. It's one that stands out. I mean, it did have the biggest actor in it at the time, luckily. Ryan Gosling, who went on to be a huge actor, was in it, so that definitely helped. It was extremely well acted, but I just think it's one of the strongest initial stories. And with all that being said, I am going to give this story my first S rating. It's got its flaws here and there. It's not perfect, but from start to finish, I feel like this book has a lot less filler than some of them. Like Monster Blood, I feel is a lot of filler. We'll get to a few coming up that I believe have a lot of filler. But this story I feel was really strong start to finish. Even some parts, just Greg talking to Michael and Bird and trying to get them to go to the house. The bullies kind of, picking them a bit. There's the part with, him talking to the cops and kind of wondering what happened to Shari. But it all feels like it's connected to the story. It all feels like it's keeping the movie or the story going. And there's not a lot of slowdown and again, like I said, filler. So, sorry about that cut. My computer decided to die halfway through. So, sorry, I kept speaking for a bit and got cut out, so I lost a bit of my thought process. But, yeah, I think I was saying that, just so the filler, this book is an S. Now, as for the cover, I kind of alluded to it at the start, that I think this cover is fantastic, but I don't like how it disconnects from the story. So in this book, you do have the fantastical world of the camera and it taking pictures that haven't happened, which is, a fantastical, magical, mystical thing. However, all the pictures it takes are real. It takes a picture of Michael falling. It takes a picture of Bird hurt. It takes a picture of the car destroyed. Of Terry's face when he is delivering that news. Shari disappearing. They're all real things. They're just predictive of the future. Whereas this is a completely fantastical event that isn't real. So again, they had them add this to the story because they liked the cover so much. So he made a little dream sequence. It's honestly the only part of the book I don't like. I get why they did it. I get that it was a cool idea for a picture and they wanted to keep it. And it was easy for him just to add that in. I think he did a good job of including it. But it's just, it doesn't work for me in that sense. And it takes away a little bit from it. Where I think if they'd done something like showing the totaled car or like Terry delivering the news or even Michael falling, it would have tied it for me a little better. That being said, the artwork is fantastic, the coloring is amazing, and I still think this cover deserves an A. So the only thing keeping out of the S again is just that I just feel like it's shoehorned into the story a bit, and it doesn't match the more realistic vibe. Again, bar the magic camera, but the realistic vibe of what the camera could do. So that's it. That is my rating for Say Cheese and Die. A really strong entry. Again, one of the ones I remember as a kid being one of my tops. I definitely feel for a bit at the beginning of the ones I remember reading, there was some real highs and lows. I'm interested to kind of get through those. I definitely feel like a lot of the Goosebumps stories sit in the A to B range. I don't think there's too many that I recall that really hit that S level perfect tier. Not perfect, but as good as it can get. I think there'll be very few on the other ends, like D's. For the ones I can remember reading offhand, I can only think of one D off the top of my mind of just a story that I just don't like. But I know there's a few. Watching some other people's Goosebumps reviews, there's a couple that I don't remember, but it's like, ooh, they don't. I wonder if I'll like those ones. I purposely didn't listen to their reviews of those ones. I watched kind of the ranking of all of them in order to see which ones they didn't like. And I didn't want to personally watch the ones that were on either extreme because I don't want to get influenced by them. I want to have my own kind of experience. I'm getting close to some books that I don't remember what happens, so I'm excited for that. Because I'd say I probably remember what happened in about a third of the books. And I probably read, 50, 55 of the 62 initially. There's probably a couple that slipped by me, but I'm excited to get to those. So that's going to do it for this one. Up next will be, which one? Which was the fifth book? Mummy's Tomb. So Crystal Mummy's Tomb, or whatever that one's called, will be the next one reviewed. So I will hopefully get to that one soon. I've already read it. I just need to make some notes to remind myself what happened and think of how I want to rate it. And I will see you all later.
Thanks for watching. Please click to check out my other videos, like and subscribe, and come by Twitch under Floyd Mason to join my live streams.